This isn't going to be your standard self-helpy social anxiety help video. This is for people who are earnestly serious about truth and commitment to truth and want to stop at nothing short of very deep, integrated, authentic living with social anxiety, right? Because anything else, any other sort of self-help technique of standing up straight with your shoulders back and fixing your posture and any of that shit doesn't work. And you know that at a deep intuitive level. You care about truth, you care about a deep, authentic, embodied experience of integrating social anxiety and living out your deepest, most authentic expression and then letting go until there's no you left, hopefully. Or maybe not. Or maybe you just want to feel better, right? So I want to get into the nitty-gritty of social anxiety in this video and talk about some approaches that have been most influential, if I stop having voice cracks, influential for changing this pattern and reversing perhaps lifelong conditioning. Because I work with clients in shadow work and deep somatic inquiry, and this has come up as a bit of a theme. It was a theme last week. I don't know if it is anymore, but I wanted to still make a video on it because I'm deeply passionate about it, having been through deep social anxiety myself. And just for a bit of context, one of the reasons I started meditating with a 2-hour daily practice was probably because I wanted to alleviate social anxiety and just feel like I could fit in and not be an alien in daily life, in the workplace, in everything I was doing. It was fucking with every aspect of my life, really. That's how it felt in the moment. I know now it's grace. It's fierce grace. It's if you have social anxiety and you're undergoing the psychospiritual unfoldment, I know how hard it is for you. Oh, I know. And sometimes, it still can get to me a bit, but this commitment to truth. The first thing I will say is that your commitment to truth, if you really want to get through this, your commitment to truth, meaning your commitment to deep honesty with yourself, has to be sentinel. It is the most foundational thing that you have to value truth over your perception, over the perception that people have of you. Now, that is very scary because we want to maintain a social identity. We want to maintain a front. And, an example comes to mind of a client that I was working with who he's very serious about waking up from the dream of separation, with awakening. And he was recounting to me an experience where, because as you meditate more, there seems to be this effect, or as you get more honest with yourself, there seems to be this effect, or if you have an ayahuasca trip, there seems to be this effect where you become brutally aware of your conditioning. So in this case of this example I was just going to mention, this gentleman was meditating quite seriously with Vipassana meditation, and this is similar to me as well. And you go into a social setting, but now you're cripplingly aware of how socially anxious you are. Before you were unconscious to it and you were acting out maladaptive behaviors that you could sort of feel you were doing, but you didn't know the extent of it until you start introspecting more. Right? It gets brutal. It's almost like you can set up this witness state and you're watching all of your maladaptive behaviors play themselves out, although they're just amplified times infinity, right? Because you're so aware of them and you're like, why am I being so fucking unauthentic with people all the time? And you're sort of like whipping yourself on the back with all of these spiritual identities as well of like, I should be above this. I should be above social anxiety. I shouldn't be feeling this way anymore because I'm a meditator, right? Like I've been to 3 10-day retreats. And so why am I still anxious? Or I've been meditating for 20 years and why am I still socially anxious? Right? And this again brings back to me that fierce grace piece of this social anxiety is stopping at nothing than annihilating anything that is not true for you at a deep, God, these blowouts, man, at a deeply authentic level. Probably shouldn't have drunk that water that's been there for like 3 days. If I die and I don't make a video, I got a bacterial infection and anyway. So with this awareness, with this heightened awareness, it's like, what do we do with that? You want to feel better. You know damn well that there's some maladaptive beliefs happening. And so let's feel into the mechanics of the social anxiety, and maybe you can feel into this. So this is a bit experiential here in your own experience. I just know this because I've been through it. I've been through what happens so many times in my experience that I know it like a book. So let's say you walk into a social situation. What happens? What do we typically tend to notice is that the body tightens up. You might have a tightness in the gut, you might have a tightness in the chest, you might have a tightness in the throat, and all of this sort of socially anxious ocean of emotions sort of kicks in, maybe in the shoulders, maybe in the neck, maybe in the head, and it becomes this, and because we have an internalization process going on, there's this effect of, it's sort of a bit of both. It's looking out. So it's saying, what are people thinking of me? What are people thinking of me? How am I being perceived? I need to be the spiritual person who needs to be, calm and relaxed, or I need to be like this. I need to be like that. And what are they thinking of me? Oh, this one as well. Am I making too much eye contact? Ooh. I laugh, but I know this is not funny when you're experiencing it. I know it's not funny. But the good news is the very fact that I can joke about it now means that you can move through it. And these things still come up for me sometimes, but there's just such a different relationship to it now where it doesn't really affect as much as it used to by any means, if at all. So this does go away, and it will if you align yourself to truth and honesty, which is the only way, which is scary, but it's worth it. So we have a contraction in the body, a tightness, and there's a sort of dissociative thing that happens where it can feel like, and this has been my experience and the experience of clients that I've been with, it may not be the case for you, so you have to honestly reflect on your own experience through the lens of truth. What is happening for me here could be a good inquiry, but it tends to be that we feel so uncomfortable in the body, and we have so many looking out programs. Our energy is going outwardly, looking at what other people are thinking of us. And what that actually is, experientially, is a thought mechanism. We're going up into the mind and we're having these very rapid fire thoughts that feel very flighty, like they're very hard to connect to. And they're looking for the validation of others in some way, shape, or form, or looking for safety in others. So we're surveying the environment, looking for safety, like, how are they thinking? Can I make them happier? Or can I put forward a joke to calm the tension in the room or something, right? Something like this. And it comes forward in so many dynamic ways depending on your nervous system's adaptive mechanisms. It could be completely different from, you could say you have social anxiety, but your manifestation of social anxiety is so nuanced and unique to you through your familial conditioning and through your childhood conditioning and your adulthood conditioning that who the hell knows what's happening. So again, it just has to be an authentic expression of what is happening for me here, and listening with authenticity and honesty. And the key with this sort of looking outwardly, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? Is to bring that energy back into the body. Physically speaking, and especially through the lens of non-duality, there is no separation. So all I mean by that is just dropping your attention into the body, especially into the tight areas that your habitual conditioning does not want to feel. That tightness in your gut, that tightness in your chest, that tightness in your neck. The more you can connect with compassion to those felt feelings, the deeper and more authentic and empowered you will feel, because you will start stepping into what is actually happening. Until then, we're going to keep, and this is just a step, this is a perfect, beautiful step that it has to take to unwind this, which it will unwind if you orient in this way, is the mind will keep going into thought, and it will have such momentum, especially if this has been going on for a long time, that it can feel overwhelming. So we just keep noticing that. Just notice. Awareness with a deep patience. knowing that if you just keep orienting this way, things will calm down for you. Awareness and deep patience and honesty. And then as you start to notice these patterns and you're dropping yourself more into the body and you're feeling what's true for you, this intentionality again is so critical that you have to start valuing truth over the perceived, how people are perceiving you. So that means you might have to be willing to not look like the confident one, the happy one, the shy one. It might mean that you might need to show somebody that you're feeling anxiety. If you're dropping into the body, what truth might look like is, hey, I'm feeling socially anxious and I'm actually going to let myself show it to you a little bit. Now, the socially anxious mind, again, I know this from direct experience, does not want to do this. It does not want to show other people that it is anxious, and it will do everything that it can through habitual identities to keep reinforcing and acting out the momentum of that conditioning to make sure that it feels safe and gets validation. But again, how much can you align to your deepest heart's yearning to connect to truth? And if that isn't your deepest heart's yearning, what is your deepest heart's yearning? Could it be that you just want to feel better to get validation? In which case, orient that way. What is your deepest truth? You can't lie to yourself. You can't. Otherwise, you're just joking and you're creating another identity that's looking for validation in another maladaptive way. If you ask with all of your heart, from the bottom of your heart, what do I need to see here in relation to social anxiety? What do I need to see here? It's almost like that energy of you're slumping into the chair like, God, please tell me, please. And you cannot fake that. Please show me. Please show me. And it will be revealed to you if you orient in that way through truth and honesty. And then follow that. And that might change from day to day, from moment to moment, or it could go on for a week or a year, whatever that orientation is. And let that then guide your experience. You see how when you give yourself over to that orientation, that love permeates through into the socially anxious experience, and no matter how uncomfortable you might be feeling, you're orienting to your deepest truth, and how empowering that is to be in your own frame rather than looking outwardly to other people. What are they thinking of me? What are they thinking of me? Yeah, pretty amazing. Okay, so with that foundational groundwork out of the way, I want to speak practically to some ways that I work with people in social anxiety so I can help you. But again, it's very critical to orient to your truth. And I'll get into the integrative and disintegrative approaches here. But for me, the integrative approach, because if I reflect back to a couple years ago when I was incredibly socially anxious, what my deepest truth was in that moment was just to feel better. I came to later realize that I wanted to feel better so that I could actually get validation from people, which was somewhat of another coping strategy. So I would do shadow work, and this is actually quite recent, and it can still happen. But it's like, what do I authentically want? There's no right or wrong with that. But that needing to feel better for the sake of getting validation can in and of itself become another fixation, because you're constantly doing shadow work on yourself so that you can polish up this egoic image of yourself so that you can then finally get validation that you need, which is still externalizing it, right? Does that make sense? It's like, if I can just do enough shadow work and heal myself, then finally I'll be worthy in the eyes of others. Or finally I'll feel worthy enough so that others can finally like me, or something like that. But here's the thing, if that's your truth, I'm not saying that that's bad. What is your truth? Follow that. If you actually want to just be validated by other people, then do it. And don't second guess yourself. Like, it's okay to want that. We can have this idea of wanting spiritual awakening or something, and anything else that is sort of like not spiritual in our eyes or something, it's like, it's not good. You know, it's like we're deluding ourselves. But I think we're actually deluding ourselves if we lie to ourselves by saying we want awakening when we actually want to get validation from other people, you know, or love or whatever it is. You see? So if we have that yearning and we want to actually disintegrate, and it may not be for validation, it may be just you just want to stop feeling so uncomfortable as well. Here's what we can do. First off, I already made a video sort of on this, and I have a free playlist on doing shadow work effectively, which I'll link the playlist on doing the secret to doing great shadow work up here. And then if you want to take that deeper, you can then watch the 5-part series that I've done so far. I might extend on it later. If you follow that through with that video, which you can watch after this one, so just don't worry, you don't have to watch it right now, but that will show you effective ways to connect to that social anxiety, that very flighty sensation of like wanting to be out of your body. That will help you connect down into the body. And when you start doing that and you start engaging with shadow work in that way, you'll start to unravel some of this conditioning. And just for the sake of this video, I'll quickly recap it. So if we can just, when you notice that you're feeling socially anxious, you can just sort of, okay, I notice that. You might take a deep breath. Have that orientation to truth. I care more about truth. It depends what your orientation is, but for me, this is what's been most effective, rather than the perceptions of other people. And then we drop into the body. Wow, okay, it's uncomfortable. Oh my goodness, it's so uncomfortable. I can only be with it for 2 seconds, and now I have to act like and put on this front again. That's okay. The more you can keep connecting to the body, it might be 2 seconds, might be 3 seconds, might be 4 seconds, but the more you can just ease it into the body deeper and just feel those really uncomfortable sensations that you've been sort of hiding behind with some degree of an identity, which we all do. There's nothing wrong with it. The more you can just feel your authentic experience, you'll start connecting to your authentic frame. And then from that place, you might do some shadow work if you want to feel a bit better about it. So inhabit that emotion, inhabit it fully, and just surrender into it. What is the view of this emotion? And it might say, you know, like, it's very quick. I've noticed with these flighty, socially anxious feelings, you really have to listen from an open, curious awareness. What is the view? It's like you step into that emotion and you're letting it speak through its eyes, not your ego's eyes. Oh, I've got this childhood trauma that I had when I was in school, and that's why I have social anxiety. No, what does the emotion want to say? It might say something very innocent. Oh, I can't show that I'm weak. I hate this. Oh, what are they thinking of me? What are they and they can go very quick, right? And you notice as you acknowledge with that body-mind connection to those flighty sensations, as they start to soften, when you just give them awareness and space, that's all they want. That's all they've ever wanted. But we have all these resistance patterns that say like, you can't show this to people. Don't show this. You have to be happy. You have to appear happy. You have to appear confident, which served us in the past. But the more we can just slow down and connect to these patterns and speak them out. And look, if you need to go to like a bathroom, right? If you need to have a bathroom break to do this, don't be ashamed to do that. Because I know how it can feel like sometimes we need to maintain our presence when we have social anxiety to make it, people might think we're weird if we go away and into our own space or something. But actually that's a very empowering move to do that. It is not a maladaptive program of you. And this might just take some conditioning, rewiring of the brain over time, that it's okay to take space from people, right? The socially anxious mind does not want to do that because it's worried that if it takes space from people, it's going to be judged or something like that, right? So, or whatever it is for you. So it's okay to take space. And I just had a conversation with a good gentleman, Mark Lakey, and one of his key bits of feedback, and in fact, I'll play it right now as a sub clip.
You are allowed to leave.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Like, even in situations where it seems like you're really not supposed to, if you really need to, usually there's some socially acceptable way to leave, or maybe a way that's not so acceptable, but you can recover from. You know what I mean? A
Mm.
lot of times I think we dramatize like the a sort of we can make it kind of like a black and white thing with social situations where it's like, if I don't stay here and show up in this way, all is lost. And it's rarely the case. Um, Another thing that comes to mind is, I guess there's like a general category, and I'm not sure if this kind of is similar to what you're saying, which is like, you don't have to physically leave, but you're allowed to pull pull inward and find some resource somewhere. So typically people are better at finding resource kind of outwardly, like they expand their consciousness, and that's more resourcing, or you're kind of more down and inward and grounding, and you find that more resourcing. So whichever one works for you, that you can sort of like energetically pull back from what you're doing and resource yourself.
Mm.
Uh, for me, I'm usually more of like the grounding side. And a lot of times, like, I just do something simple like feel the weight into my feet, right? So like I have this sense of like, oh, like I'm actually like really supported by the floor right now. Like I can
Yeah.
actually be here. Like gravity is like doing its thing.
And on that note, Mark had some other good things to say about social anxiety. So let's also hear these things as well.
I think a lot of people that have social anxiety, our energy is over there,
Yes.
right? Pulling it back
Yes.
is really helpful, just to emphasize like how much we can have our attention out there. And then it's almost like we're out there, like our nervous systems are in some way kind of exposed because they're out there. So when we pull that back, what I found is that not only does it somehow maybe help you to relax and to feel better, to feel safety, to feel like you can stay, it actually enhances the social experience. Even though there's like this period of time where maybe you're not actually following as closely what's happening, you might miss something. But then a minute later, when you're really resourced, you'll find that you can actually hear people much better. You really understand what they're saying. You kind of
Mm.
get what's going on much more clearly because your nervous system isn't freaking out outside your body. Basically, it's like, no, you feel the safety first, and
Yeah.
then you can just like relax and open up and hear for the first time. I don't feel like I really fit in here, or this, like I'm having this intense experience and no one else is. Okay, fine, but I belong on Earth. Like
Mm.
I'm a
Yeah.
resident of this planet, and I can really feel my relationship with the Earth. Like I don't know how goofy that sounds to people, but like I've come to just kind of accept that, like, yeah, oh shit, like I really do belong here because look, I'm here with my buddy the Earth. And it's
Sure.
funny how that can kind of like give you this bigger sense of belonging so that you might not even worry so much about the social situation that you're in at
Yeah.
the moment.
Oh, shoot. And I wanted to say a couple of other things that have been very helpful. I just finished recording, but I want to add this in. So, physical modalities are so critical. I mentioned earlier on in the video that there is this freeze response that can happen, a tightening of the gut, a tightening of the heart, a tightening of the neck, tightening of the jaw, right? So these, through physical modalities, that can help soften and release a lot of that energy that is causing us to be socially anxious. And I do not want to underestimate this because this can have a profound effect quite quickly. Now, we can have this belief that, I have a spiritual practice, I have one spiritual practice, or, I want to stick to this one practice because this is going to be the thing that saves me. And yet we still feel quite socially anxious. So the idea of taking on another practice can sometimes be intimidating. And I just want to point out that that is indeed a belief. We can let go of that. And if you feel inclined to, if you feel whatever your physical modality is, whether it is running, whether it is qigong, whether it is TRE, trauma release exercises, which I highly, highly recommend, especially through a facilitator like Christina Gamand. And I'm going to do a facilitation training with it as well because it is so effective. What else? Whatever your physical modality is, like breath work as well, if we can get to that frozen emotion and tension in the body and have it actually release. I've had recounts from Chris Gamand herself, who is an awakening facilitator endorsed by Angelo Dilullo, who also does TRE. She's had people who have had social anxiety who they can't be in a room with people for more than 5 minutes because it's so uncomfortable, who release a lot of this knotted up tension in the body through simply doing a practice like TRE. And then a lot of that calms down because they're no longer coming into these situations with a fight or flight response or a freeze response, actually. So that solar plexus might soften a bit, that gut might soften a bit. And because the egoic identity is largely in place to navigate trauma and control trauma and have all sorts of protective mechanisms and thoughts and belief structures in order to not feel uncomfortable. When that actually releases and softens, a lot of those thought patterns calm down themselves as well, which then opens up a deeper psychospiritual unfoldment. Again, pushing this idea that social anxiety is actually a leverage point for you for deeper psychospiritual unfoldment. So I just wanted to add that as a very important piece. If you can do something like TRE and maybe emotional inquiry alongside continued exposure into social situations and having that deeply authentic approach, that will serve you infinitely. And it's been my experience as well that a lot of that social anxiety softens quite dramatically, quite quickly, to the point where we can feel like kind of destabilized in a way because we're so used to showing up in these social situations with like a freeze response or a fight or flight response that when that starts to soften, it's like, what? You mean I can be like in a ventral vagal relaxed state with people and I can like feel connected to people? Like, what? Is this right? So I just wanted to add that in as another piece to this. So yeah, let's continue with the video. Now, I also want to point out, I mentioned there's an integrative approach, which is sort of what we were doing there. And there's also a disintegrative approach. We can never, ever get the love and validation that we need from other people. Now, I'm not going to point you, and I refer people to other awakening facilitators for the disintegrative approach because this is still unfolding for me. And my integrity, my honest truth is to not guide you in that way as of recording this video. That said, I will share from my experience a couple of things that I've, orientations that I've realized in my own experience. Sometimes we can do shadow work until our face turns blue, until the cows come home, all the sayings, whatever the hell else. It's like you might do shadow work on a socially anxious situation because you just want to feel better. You want to get a little bit more validation. So let's say you're in the workplace and you do some shadow work and you feel a little bit better and you might go back out into that situation. And then, okay, then you feel better, but then you might notice that, oh, okay, I'm getting anxious again. I'm getting socially anxious again. Then you start doing shadow work again and you calm it down. You go back out. Oh, I'm anxious again in some other way. And then we can sort of become hyper neurotic and very internal at fixing our social anxiety. And then we might do it in another situation. We're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling that socially anxious feeling again. Okay, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to feel into it. And that's wonderful. We can keep doing that. And I would encourage that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But there might be an intuition maybe that arises later down the line where like, surely I can't keep doing this forever, right? I can't keep putting out fires with these socially anxious fires constantly. And that's where the disintegrative approach, if you could call it an approach, comes in, where again, if we have that orientation of wanting truth and nothing other than truth, what would it mean for me to actually show fully and inhabit my most deepest, authentic emotional experience in front of people without giving a living, flying fuck what the perception of myself is to them? I could be feeling complete and utter humiliation in front of these people and yet still be so deeply and empowered in my own frame with that orientation toward truth that nothing else matters. So that my deepest authentic expression is allowed in its entirety. So that if I open up my whole body and I walk into a socially anxious situation and I feel deeply scared, frightened, maybe angry, maybe sad, maybe joyful, I can just be that without creating any sense of separation between it and me, and not even labeling it as such, as any of these sorts of emotions. And I just be. And maybe even intertwining various inquiries into this process. Like, who am I? What is this? Who's the one suffering? Who's the one experiencing social anxiety? How can I even know I'm experiencing social anxiety?
Also, there's another really important thing that this disintegrative approach can bring with it a bit of fear, right? It's like, whoa, you mean I could surrender into unapologetically being who I am? And by the way, this thought occurred to me while I was cooking eggs after editing the video.
Oh, no.
So I just want to add this in. And I want to play a clip, right, from Josh Putnam. And this is a video I shot back a while with him to illustrate what this might look like.
This need to care, this like management, this got to take care of other people, got to make sure I'm liked, got to make sure I have enough money. You get to a place of I don't care and I don't need to care, then this, as it just is, falls together exactly the way it does, and it's perfect. We can't even imagine how perfect this is when we don't care. Truly.
Yeah, that's one of the themes that's come up for me a lot is trust. Yeah, it's scary, dude. It's really scary. But that's only the self that can know that. I know it's going to drop away. I know it's dropping away. But
and what's so scary about scary? Do you see?
Yeah,
scary,
it's just another
scary.
sensation.
Be in the midst of scary, and let it have all the effects that it seems to normally have. Enjoy it all the way, because it's just part of all of this. But see, fear is a meta experience. We become afraid of fear and become afraid of that fear and become afraid of that fear. Anything that becomes meta, pay a lot of attention to, because it's doing everything it can to distract you from something. And that distraction, right under that, is the biggest insight. Just like that. For you in this trust, what I will say is, it's the fear itself that will teach you everything about trust. It is that fear itself. There's nothing other than that fear that will show you what trust is. That's the miracle about that sensation as it arises. It's the very first thing that arises, and it is the only thing that exists every time. That is immediacy. Be with it. Get scared as fuck. It's worth it. I promise you. Get so scared that you're a puddle. There's going to be something there. It's going to be okay. You can feel so completely, and you don't have to do anything. This is the essence of stillness. You can just feel into a void, feel on top of a mountain, feel into the deep cosmos. Just fucking feel.
And actually from this place, we might actually have spontaneous arisings of wanting to do shadow work because it feels naturally called for in that moment, which is wonderful. So do shadow work. But it's also from this place of spontaneity. It's not like we're standing back at an arm's length, looking at our experience from almost like a watcher state, doing shadow work on ourselves in effort to maintain control of our experience. It's like a surrender. So, like, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. It's like, that's why we need to be orienting to our truth. What is needed? What does this body mind need to do in this situation? And eventually, I think the culminating event is the surrender piece. However, again, what's true for you, don't fake it. Don't fake it. Because that social anxiety, it will calm down through shadow work and it will deepen for you. But ultimately, that letting go and that surrender, I think, is where the true money is at and where the freedom is. Because if there's nobody there to manage the experience, there's nobody there to be socially anxious. Social anxiety could be playing itself out, but we're not labeling it as such. And we just are being, and life is just happening through us. Yeah. So that's my take on that. But until then, what works, right? What works, right? Yeah, I just have this deep, heartfelt sense to let you know as well that social anxiety isn't going to run your life for the rest of time. It may be uncomfortable. You know, I've had days where I've been doing deep shadow work in socially anxious, where like I'm contesting my most deepest conditioning by being so fully uncomfortable in a situation, in like the workplace and stuff, where I'm just in this like docile, inert state where I'm feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. And like, I don't know what's up, I don't know what's down, and all there is like seemingly pain and neurotic tendencies to want to get the hell out, but you just sit with it. Like, I can handle this. The human body mind has a deep, deep capacity to hold pain. There's no doubt that if I can do it, you can do it. Bottom line, like I used to have those beliefs that, yeah, like social anxiety is something I'm never going to be able to get over. It's just too intense. I'm broken. Like something about me is just unique, right? Oh, that's a good one that the mind will really want to latch onto. So there's something about me that is just so uniquely fucked up that I cannot get beyond this, no matter what I do. But not true. And if you don't believe that, look into your experience. Why do I believe it's not true? What's that getting for me? What's it getting for me to hold on to the fact that I'm so fundamentally broken and I can't feel the most uncomfortable sensations? Oh, it's getting me safety. It's getting me control. It's what's familiar. Or whatever it is for you. Don't let me tell you. Man, I could go on and on and on about social anxiety. So if you have any comments or questions about this, just let me know in the comments and I'll happily answer them for you. Because I know it's such a rich place, because so much of our identities are formed on the social conditioning, actually. And it is, it's grace, it's fierce grace that you're coming into contact with this, and it will calm down, it will dissipate, and it's also funneling you into a deeper state of psychospiritual unfoldment and into inviting you into surrender every time you're experiencing it. So, yeah, and I just love you. I love you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you're experiencing social anxiety at all. You're not broken. In fact, you're probably just more sensitive and in touch with your humanity than a lot of people are. Because a lot of people are putting on a front and you're actually experiencing energetically what's being felt underneath that fake front. Because you're sensitive, which is beautiful. But don't take that as a leverage point. Just feel into your direct experience of what is true for me, what is honest for me, what is deeply and authentically true for me. And that will serve you very, very well. So much love to you, and good luck with this orientation in your daily life. And yeah, reach out if you need to. I offer free sessions to help go into this stuff very directly, and it's all good fun. You know, I have deep admiration for people who are willing to get onto a call and just surrender to the fact that, hey, you know what, I'm feeling socially anxious, but I intuit that this is something I need to be deeply authentic with, and just showing up, you know, just showing up is a beautiful act in and of itself. Showing up and just letting what will be what may as a prayer. You know what? Be what may. Even if I like look like an absolute wreck, is that my spiritual identity that I've accrued for doing multiple meditation retreats is being contested. By the very fact that I'm showing up in a call and I'm actually socially anxious, and I've been hiding that from people through a spiritual identity or whatever identity, like the doctor identity or whatever, the helper, the fixer. And if they see that I'm socially anxious, oh my God, like that's the end of me. And I understand that view. One of the first calls I had was when I got on with Violet, one of my earlier facilitators. Violet Synergy, Angelo Dilullo's current partner as of making this video. And first thing I said to her is like, I'm fucking terrified to be on this call with you because I produce content on YouTube and I had this sort of like spiritual content creator identity and I was still suffering so much. So it was like just being laid bare in front of being naked and having that whole facade being challenged, and it was so worth it. You know, anyway, I'm rambling. Much love. I hope this helps. All the best to you. truly.